what we've got here is failure to communicate.
If there is anyone else who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, the name of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer.
Are the Prime Minister and the President going to sign a deal soon to sort of carry this forward?
Well, I don't want to go into the area of speculating when this is going to happen, how it's going to happen, but I'm just saying this morning to those who are listening to us, our major preoccupation, of course, is the economy.
Yeah. People are worried that this might involve some sacrifice of sovereignty if the words used in the draft agreement are to integrate certain policies. Are we going to have to harmonize immigration policy? Or?
Well, you know, here again, this is the same speech that Bob Rae held in the House on Friday. You know, our preoccupation is making sure that we get Canadians back in the workplace. We open our borders. We work with the United States, our largest trading partner. But you know, in terms of what this impact is going to have, etc. I think this is pure speculation until such time as a document is produced, and I don't want to talk about when that document is going to be produced. I think that we should all just breathe a lot more easily and continue to worry about the economy.
And we're back with our journalists. So, Craig, I want to talk about this interview that you did with Lawrence Cann, the Foreign Affairs Minister, off the top. This border perimeter security issue, I thought it was a big issue.
I did too, and I still think it is, but I felt like I was living in a parallel universe. It was as if it didn't exist. And I think what's happening here is there has been a premature revelation of the government's election plan. We are promising you this major new issue with the United States if you elect us, and it fits in with the two things that they have been promoting, most importantly, security and the economy. How can you beat it? The trouble is it leaked early, and now they got to deal with that.
But Bob, it seemed like he was backing away from it.
Yes, but I have actually a copy of the draft agreement, which I don't want to show on television.
Which doesn't exist.
Which doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it says,
it's pure speculation.
It says,
Bob.
a declaration by the President of the United States of America and the Prime Minister of Canada beyond the border, a shared vision for perimeter security and competitiveness. This is a deal that's supposed to be signed in January. So, you know what? There's no reason for them to back away from it, except that perhaps, you know, this was leaked ahead of time.
Premature.
But there are very serious issues on the border since 9/11, and the government, both the Liberals and this government, understand that we have a lot of trade, that we have to get this moving quickly through the border without these constant delays. Most stuff is now on-time delivery. So what they're talking about is making that much smoother move through the borders for our goods and services, as well as going along with better security. For example, biotechnology data, which make it a lot easier for people to go through airports without all the hassles.
What underlines all of this is still the American view that we cannot be trusted to protect their country from terrorist attack. And so where we're going here is mainly security, but they're trying to make it an economic issue.
No, it is an economic issue, and it's a security issue. It's a huge economic issue. What the Americans are saying is Canada and the United States are basically such an integrated economy that we have to work together on security and commerce.
Okay, Jim.
Well, I thought the interview was fascinating.
Yeah.
You asked him about this, and he started talking about drug smuggling from Mexico. And I think that's what it tells you, is that this has turned out, instead of being a positive for the government, is now turning into a bit of a communications conundrum. You know, one of the successes over the past few years is these discussions have been going on for years now under George Bush and the Liberal government, and you
It
know,
was their idea.
Yeah, and it's always been relatively under wraps because it's been kind of incremental improvements in that relationship. Well, now it's beginning to look like some kind of mini NAFTA, and everybody in this country can remember how inflamed the NAFTA debate was. Plus, they've got the cart before the horse. They're going to sign this thing and then have discussion. So I think they're in danger of turning this, what might have been quite a modest thing and a success for them, into a dangerous political issue at a time when people are starting to...
Yeah, but you know,
that's a
let's put things,
communications disaster.
but let's
for
think
them,
about
right?
put things in perspective. Everybody was worried about, first of all, free trade, and then NAFTA. We have been the beneficiaries, Canada more than the Americans, for both those trade agreements. Billions and billions of dollars every year, hundreds of thousands of millions of new jobs. More than that, when the recession hit, we were not the ones that were as hurt as bad as the Americans. Why? Because of NAFTA and the free trade deal with the United States.
All of that is true, but it does not get us away from the issue that the issue on the table here, because of the way they've managed it, not necessarily because of the substance, could be about sovereignty, and that is a very explosive issue.
Exactly, and what does perimeter mean? Perimeter could mean goodbye to the 49th parallel. If you get into Halifax, you're into the United States as well as being into Canada, and for that to happen, we have to have harmonized immigration policy, refugee
What they're
policy.
looking at are things like, for example, we're all going through this hassle
They
at
use the word
airports.
integrated there.
They do, and they go through the airports. We all have this hassles, but now there's an exit system. In other words, you go up and you show your iris, and you go through immediately.
Right.
These are the kind of things they're talking about, so we don't have the kind of hassles that we have at airports, particularly for business travels, but for ordinary travelers. But they're going to have a more watchful eye on foreigners who come into either the United States or Canada. That's where they're looking
The sharing
at.
of the security information, though, could...
We're already doing that.
Yeah, but even more so, though. Could
We're already doing it.
Well,
But
but some of the
but
arguments that
it
Jennifer
is
Stoddard,
explosive.
for instance, the privacy commissioner, would be very upset about this, and one of the people who will fight against it.
And that's one argument that's already forming. The other argument is, what we're trading off here is giving the Americans essentially control of the North American perimeter, but do we really get a guarantee that the border is not going to continue to thicken? Because every time there's a threat perceived threat in the United States, the border thickens, and that's what they're trying to deal with.
This agreement is not. This agreement is talking about lifting those barriers so that goods and services
Between
go
Windsor
through a
and
lot
Detroit,
quicker.
yeah, exactly.
But when as Trudeau said, when you sleep beside the elephant and you're the mouse, you have to be careful when you roll over.
It's a lovely argument. It's a lovely argument, except that it hasn't worked. If you look at the two major trade agreements we've had, the Canada Free Trade Agreement and NAFTA, Canada has been the overall beneficiary of that over the Americans.
But that changed on 9/11.
Well,
changed
maybe
at
last word
9/11.
Jim Travers. Anyway, Jim Travers, Bob Fife, thanks very much for joining us.
If there is anyone else who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, the name of our founders is alive in our time. Who still questions the power of our democracy. Tonight is your answer.
I'm deeply troubled by a massive global political awakening